Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing all of exponents and radicals in preparation for our quiz. Let's get into it. We got 2n to the negative 1 power. That n to the negative 1 power is going to have to move to the bottom of the fraction, and when you do that it would become positive and no longer be on the top of the fraction. So then we would have to kind of add 1/3 and 1 together. And when you do that, you end up with n to the 4/3. I would recommend using a calculator. 1 plus 1/3 is 4/3. And then you have to think, how many more n's do I need on the bottom of this fraction to be able to complete it? Because right now, 4/3 is a fractioned exponent, and we can't keep it that way. We need, if we have 4 out of 3, we need to bump it all the way up to 6 out of 3, which would mean we need 2 more to be able to do that. In order to do that, we would multiply by n to the 2/3, n to the 2/3, and when we get that answer, we would end up with n squared, because 6 divided by 3 is 2, and we get 6 from 4 plus 2, 2n to the 2/3 power as our final answer. Now that one's a harder one, but you're going to realize that number 2 is an easier one, because when we do this one, that negative exponent, when we move it to the top of the fraction, is going to be on the top of the fraction where it's okay. So the 4's would cancel. 4/4 would cancel out, leaving us with r to the first times r to the 3/4 that we moved to the top. And when we add those together, we get r to the 7/4 as our final answer. Moving on. Number 3, we got y to the negative 2. That's going to move to the bottom. So we're going to move the y to the negative 2 to the bottom. The 2/3 and the 3/2, that, however, I am going to have to add or subtract, or mainly find the difference between the two. So let's do that. Moving the y to the negative 2 down would make this 3/2 y to the 3rd power, because 1 and the 2 that we have right there would combine to make 3. Now I'm going to find the difference between 3/2 and 2/3 using my handy dandy calculator. The difference between 3/2 minus 2/3 is 5/6. So this would be 5/6, x to the 5/6 on the top of the fraction. Next one, number 4. This one, a power raised to another power. We do not add our exponents. We would multiply -4 times -1/2. And when we do that, we end up with x to the, just x to the 2nd power. -4 times -1/2 is 2. So that's all it is. It's 2. 5. We got the cube root of 2. We got the cube root of 5. Always check to see if you can divide them first, because that would make it a lot easier. You can't. 5 doesn't divide by 2. So now you have to ask yourself, what do I need to multiply by to get the 2 to not be cube rooted on the bottom of the fraction? Well, if I have 1 2 and I need 3 2's because it's the cube root, I would need to multiply by 2 more 2's, better known as a 2 squared or a 4. And we're going to multiply the top of the fraction, and we're going to simplify and deal with the bottom. So this is going to be 5 cube root of 5 times 4, which is 20, over the cube root of 2, and there are 3 of the 2, so this would be just the cube root of 8, or 2, because we'd have 1, 2, 3 2's. That's going to come out of the cube root and become a 2. 5 does not divide by 2, but if it did, we would divide it. And in this case, this is all we can do. We can't do anything else. The 20 doesn't actually cube root. 5 doesn't divide by 2. That's all we can do. 3 and 125 don't simplify, but we can, if we wanted to help ourselves out, break down this 125. It is 5 times 25 and 5 times 5. So currently we have 1, 2, 3 5's. I need 1 more 5 to make it break free of the 4th root. Because we have 3, we need 4, we need 1 more. When we do that, I'm going to multiply the top together. We're going to get 4 fourth root of 15 over 5. Because we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 5s breaking free, just making the singular 5 on the outside. 4 doesn't divide by 5. We have our final answer. Next one, number 7. In order to cancel this square root out, we would have to square both sides, leaving negative 12 plus 7n equaling n squared. And then from here, because we have an n squared and we have a 7n, we need to set it equal to 0 and then factor. So I'm going to move the 12 and I'm going to move the 7n over, leaving me, I'm going to add the 12 over. It'd be, and subtract the 7. I'm going to scratch that out. N squared minus 7n, we got to subtract the 7. We got to add the 12. Now it equals 0, so we can factor. Factoring, you can use the tic-tac-toe board if you have been trained to do that, or you can think what would multiply to 12, that last number that would add to negative 7. Well, things that multiply to 12 that add to negative 7 are only negative 4 and negative 3. And those are the factors, but the solutions would be 4 and 3. And you should check your solutions. It says check for extraneous solutions. So if you plug in 4, negative 12 plus 4 times 7 should equal 4. And if you plug in the 4, if it works out, then you put a check mark next to it. And then if you plug in the 3, if it works out, you put a check mark next to it. Both of these will work out. On one of the future problems, maybe it won't, but you never really know. Both of these do. Always be looking for when you foiled or factored, and if you get a negative answer especially, those are more likely to not work. So definitely check the negatives, but on a more high stakes thing, you need to definitely plug them in. For number 8, square both sides. Be upset because we have to FOIL the v plus 1 and the v plus 1 together, but it will equal 5v minus 1. So we're going to have to FOIL this out, which is going to be v squared plus 1v plus 1v plus 1 equals 5v minus 1. 1v and 1v makes 2v plus 1 equals 5v minus 1. Again, you have a v squared and a v. You need to set it equal to 0 and then factor. So we're going to move this 5v over. If we move the 5v, if we subtract 5 from 2, you get negative 3v. If we add 1 to 1, you get 2 equals 0. What multiplies to 2 but adds to negative 3 is negative 2 and negative 1, meaning your solutions are going to be v equals 2 and v equals 1. From here, check your solutions. Make sure it works out. If I plugged in the 2 plus 1 had better equal the square root of 5 times 2 minus 1. Well, does 3 equal the square root of 9? Yeah, it works out. Check your solutions. Both of these do work when you plug them in, but you need to check your solutions for every single problem, because that's important to make sure you're not having extraneous solutions. Halfway there, folks. If you have a fractioned exponent, start by adding the 4 in this case. P minus 19 would equal 8. I almost wrote 16. And then it is still raised to the 3 over 2 power. Get rid of the 3 over 2 power by raising it to the flip. So if we raise this to the 2/3 power, it will cancel. So we are raising this to the 2/3 power and raising the 8 to the 2/3 power. When we raise this to the 2/3 power, it cancels out. When we raise the 8 to the 2/3 power, we grab our calculator, unless you want to do it by hand. P minus 19, 8 to the 2/3 power is equal to 4. Add 19, P would equal 23. Done. You should check your solutions on these as well. 23 works. Number 10, divide by 4. Divide by 4. Resort to a calculator because I don't know what that is. What is that? We got 2048 divided by 4 is 512. Raise this to the 2/3 power. Raise this to the 2/3 power because you got to cancel that 3 over 2 out. If we raise this to the 2/3 power and raise that to 2/3 power, they cancel. 2k will equal 512 to the 2/3 power. Raise 2. The 2 divided by 3. You get 64 when you raise 512 to the 2/3 power. Divide by 2. K would equal 32. Not that bad. The next 4 are going to be really easy, actually. We have the cube root of this stuff, but it's not asking us to simplify. It's just asking us to write each expression in exponential form. So this is going to be 4k, the quantity of that, to the 2/3 power. So this number goes on the bottom of the fraction. The 2 goes on the top of the fraction. You could also say 4 to the 2/3, k to the 2/3. I like the first answer. That one looks very nice and clean and done. Number 12, we're done. Number 12, we got k to the 5th power. If it's the square root of that, and then there's like an invisible 2 here, that is going to be k to the 5 over 2 power because you put the number on the outside, that 2 on the bottom, and the 5, which was here, on the top, which is the same location. Both of those are representing the same thing. 13. We have the 6th root of 2n, quantity. So put it in parentheses to the 5th power. Done with 13. 14, we got the square root because that invisible 2. You don't need to write the 2. A to the 3rd power. Easy as that. 4 more and we're done. 4 more, these 4. Simplifying, the cube root of 128 means you got to break down the 128. 2 times 56, nope, not 56. I don't think 128 is 56. 128 divided by 2 is 64, way off. Divide by 2, you get 32. You're going to have a lot of 2s. 2, 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. A lot of 2s. We're looking for the cube root, so we need 3 of a kind. We have 3 of a kind here, and 3 of a kind there, and then 1 lonely 2 left over. So 2 times 2 gives us 4 cube root of what was left over, which in this case is a 2. 3 doesn't go into an x squared, but if it did, 3 would go into like 5, 1 time, 2 left over, that sort of thing. So 3 goes into 2. It doesn't. So this is going to be our final answer, and I'm kind of sad that 3 didn't go into 2 to show you that. Number 16, we need to break down the 160, which is 2 and 80, 2 and 40. Oh, it's off the screen. 2 and 40, 2 and 20, 2 and 10, 2 and 5. A lot of 2s, just like last time. We're not looking for the 5. We're looking for 5 of the 2s. Most of the time it's going to be a 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There they are. So that number 2 is going to go on the outside. And the 5th root of 5n will go on the outside because we have a n here. The 5th root of n doesn't do anything, so this is where we are going to stop. For this problem, we need to first recognize I could definitely add the cube root of 108s right now. But I need to make sure that 108, before I do that, doesn't simplify down to a 4 of some kind. Okay? So let's see if that does that. 108 breaks down into 2 and 59, and it does not, to say the least, I don't think. 108 divided by 2 is 54. Oh, it's that. There we go. It might. 54 divides by 3 and is 18. Oh, it did divide it by 2 as well. 18 divides by 2 and you get 9 and 3 and 3. We have 1, 2, 3 3s. We needed a cube root, so there they are. So the cube root would be 3 cube root of not 2, but both of the 2's, which is 4. Plus 3 cube root of negative 4. Plus 3, well, what is the cube root of 108? We just did it. It is 3 cube root of 4. Now, all of these are kind of a cube root of 4. But this negative 4 is an issue. If it's a negative 4, you need to take out the negative, and you can take out a negative with a cube root and make this a negative cube root of regular 4, because negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, and therefore the cube root of a negative number, you can just always remove the negative. So if we had this, 3 cube root of 4 minus a cube root of 4 plus 3 cube root of 4, 3 plus 3 makes 6, but then minus 1 would be 6 minus 1 is 5 cube roots of 4. All right? Last one for the video. I am putting an X here because on our quiz, my quiz, I put an X there because otherwise your calculator can simplify it for you, and I am that mean. I am. We have 2 plus 2 square root of 5x. We need to multiply by 2 minus 2 square root of 5x and 2 minus 2 square root of 5x. The top of the fraction will be very easy. It is going to be 4 minus 8 square root of 5x. The bottom of the fraction I am going to do off to the side because we have to FOIL this. So I'm going to do it kind of right here. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times a negative 2 square root of 5x is 4, negative 4, square root of 5x. Now I need to multiply the next part, which is this part, thus 2 square root of 5x times 2 is 4 square root of 5x. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and the square root of 5x times the square root of 5x is 5x. They cancel the square roots out when you do that. Middle part will cancel. We have 4 minus 4 times the square times 5x. 4 times 5x is 20x. So we have 4 minus 20x. You can't do anything with that. So we have 4 minus 20x on the bottom of the fraction. If you were to recognize me like, man, everything here could divide by 4, you could divide everything by 4. I'm not expecting that on my particular quiz, but if you recognize that and see that everything here, excluding the square root of 5x, could divide by 4, I'd be very happy if you did do that and get 1 minus 2 square root of 5x and 1 minus 5x. That one looks a little bit better than the top one because everything did divide by 4, which is very rare. That doesn't happen. All right, that's going to do it for this one. I hope everybody has a good day and will look at this and do well on the quiz. I will see y'all later. Bye.